Social media is one of the most significant developments in human cultural history. What started off as what some people thought was going to be no more than a passing fad quickly exploded into a multi-billion-dollar industry that fundamentally changed the way human beings shop, the interests we pursue, and especially how we interact with one another. As a consequence, social media often makes headlines, and not always for the best of reasons. Like it or not, social media is here to stay, and so we, as humanity, are faced with a decision. Should we accept it and incorporate it into these various aspects of our lives, or should we reject it? I believe that social media represents a powerful tool when it is used in the correct hands and when it is used for the correct job. In the early days of the internet, social media quickly took off and exploded to fill these various niches. As a consequence, we now have tons of different kinds of social medias, so I'm just going to narrow it down to the big three, the three that we're all probably a little bit familiar with, and that is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram is the premier media for visual posts, so somebody like me in biology would use it for fieldwork photos or wildlife photography, anything that's going to make a reader look at a photo and say, hey, that's really cool, I'd like to learn a little bit more about this. Twitter's strength is that it's very jack of all trades. You can post photos, videos, pretty much anything so long as you're not exceeding the character limit imposed by Twitter. But if you've got a lot to say on some topic, you're going to have to make several tweets or start a thread. Facebook's strength lies in that it's very available to you and to everybody else. Almost everyone is familiar with Facebook or has an account. And that can be a problem, though, if you'd like to separate your private life from your professional life, just for privacy concerns. So I'll make it no secret that I'm a little bit biased towards Twitter. I think it's really nice. And that's because, as a researcher, it's like I'm at a conference, but with scientists from all over the globe. And this is actually Twitter's greatest strength, and indeed all of social media's greatest strength. It removes the conventional barriers that have otherwise hampered communication between professionals and the desired audience or the general public. For example, let's dissect this Twitter interaction. A. John Bruno is a scientist who's working on coral reef community assemblages in Belize. He's published here his own work and his novel research. B. John Sexton is a citizen diver who's interested in the work that John Bruno is doing, but isn't quite clear through all the jargon what the overall take-home message is. So he asks John Bruno. He says, hey, I didn't understand this. Can you put it in a little bit more of a layperson's term for me? To which John Bruno happily obliges. A little bit later, Grantley Gillard is another researcher who comes along and looks at what John Bruno has published and says, oh, well, I've actually got some unpublished data on fishes in this area. We should talk, we should collaborate on this. And a couple messages go by, and sure enough, a whole new collaboration has emerged. The significance of these two things should not be lost on you. The first is that this scientist was able to directly communicate the overall message and findings of their research without having to fear for any sort of conflation or anything getting lost in translation through a media interview or other traditional outlets where researchers have expressed their findings. The second is that because this research was posted to social media, it actually expanded the knowledge base on that topic. Social media is designed to do one thing exceptionally well, and that is to engage an audience, just like how I'm hopefully engaging all of you today. It gives the researcher a higher degree of control over the dissemination of their research and their work. It shifts the model from a push, where you are going onto the internet and putting your work out onto cyberspace and just hoping that it reaches the correct audience, to a pull, where you're pulling an audience into your space that you've created for yourself on the internet, and then you just put your research out right in front of everybody, and they consume it, they read it as soon as you post it. And the success of this model has been demonstrated empirically. We see that articles that are pushed on Twitter or supplementally through some sort of social media are on average cited more often. And importantly too, a lot of biases towards authors are removed. Perhaps most importantly is that this overcomes those traditional barriers like paywalls or subscriptions that kept you from getting these messages out to your general audience. And this is very important because you want your audience, you want the general public to know what your research is, why it's important, and what the overall message is. Because if you have the people behind you, there's a greater chance that your research is going to go farther in your field and maybe help enact something like some government policy. As a student, I'm really passionate about incorporating social media into our professional lives because I'm actually here giving this talk today because I found my current graduate school position on Twitter, and this is the ad. Well, as a student, if you're active on social media and you're following all these people that you might want to work for one day, it lets you first see those job opportunities before anybody else, and second, it gives you an idea of the environment that you're going to be working in, what the job actually entails, rather than just reading about it on the application itself. Most importantly for graduate students too, it gives you a sense of who your potential supervisor actually is. Are they somebody that you are going to be successful under? Likewise, for a potential supervisor or employer, when you are posting a job opportunity or application, you can be sure that a lot of people are going to see it. Look at the metrics on this ad. At least over 100 people have shared it, and if only 100 of those people had just 100 followers, you've really increased the amount of people that have seen your opportunity by several degrees of magnitude. And then you can also sort of screen for these applicants too. By making sure and creating this space for yourself where only people that are interested in your work are going to be finding you, you can be sure that the people that are applying for your job are going to be those that are qualified and those that already have an interest in what the work actually is. But all this research is just a facet of what we all do in academia. Many of us are teachers too. And so social media represents itself a powerful resource for online course material, given that for the time being, a lot of education has shifted to an online delivery. This allows a teacher to pull all sorts of different things off the internet. Articles, videos, things that are more easily digestible by a more diverse audience. And it allows you to deliver the same caliber of education that you would normally in person. For all these positives, there are some negatives about social media, and I do need to address those. One of these that has emerged this year is the concept of something called doom scrolling. And doom scrolling is a bit of a feedback loop behavior where a depressed or anxious individual continually scrolls through their social media feeds or news feeds, even though all the news is kind of depressing or anxiety inducing. And let's face it, there is no shortage of such news these days. This brings me to my next point though, in that social media may be good to fight fire with fire. As graduate students, a lot of us have lost our traditional support network, whether that was our colleagues, our fellow students, or our supervisors. We just don't get to see them day to day. Social media is really a good way to just check up on each other. It's good to just, if you see a post that made you laugh or smile or think of somebody else, tell them, send that to them and say, you know, I just wanted to say hey, make sure that the work's going okay, hope you're doing okay. This is a lot less intimidating than a big formal email, so I'm quite a big fan of it. At the very beginning of this talk, I mentioned that social media is powerful if you know how to use it and you're using it correctly. I learned this lesson a little bit gently this past summer. I had a little bit of an experience with it, and I'd like to share it with you all today because I think it's a good example of, you know, things going wrong in a harmless sort of way, but with real-world implications. So I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and we are blessed with a beautiful coastline. So I like to go snorkeling or otherwise freediving around in my spare time. One day I got very lucky and I found this rare color morph of our common American lobster. It was blue. I took a couple of pictures and I sent them to a bunch of friends because I thought it was really cool, and they did too. One of them sent it to this big account that has over 100,000 followers on Instagram, and they thought it was cool and they posted it. However, there's one thing that they posted along with it that I would have removed if I'd submitted it to them. Do you know what it is? It is the location where these photos were taken. And as a conservationist, this is a concern because there are rumors that surround these lobsters that they're somehow more valuable or they taste different or just are otherwise desirable to other people. So it's very real that somebody could see this post and travel to this location and try to harvest this animal, which is illegal. So I tried to jump in and do a little bit of damage control. Most people were pretty happy to see it, but the very first comment was actually somebody who wanted to eat the lobster. So of course I was like, don't eat it, you can't harvest these animals. I tried to get them to remove the location, but they chose not to. And that is the golden rule. It's one of the first things that you're taught about the internet, is that whatever you put out there, it is really out there for good. And I had to learn that the hard way this summer. And it wasn't just Instagram. I realized a day later that they actually had a Facebook account too. So I had to run over there and say, hey, this is what happened. And there were some people that were insinuating that I may have taken the lobster, so I just wanted to clarify that everything was okay and I didn't take the lobster. And of course, you shouldn't harass wildlife. However, my profile picture at the time was actually me holding a lobster that I had found stuck in some rocks at low tide. So here I am preaching about not harassing wildlife when my profile picture actually looks like I'm harassing wildlife. So you really need to be conscious of both the image that you are putting onto the internet and the content that you are putting onto the internet. Social media might seem complicated, but it's really not. It's kind of simple, and once you've used it a couple of times, you realize what not to do and what to do. Hopefully this talk has made you realize how powerful of a tool it can be in a professional capacity, and hopefully I'll see you on the timeline. Thank you very much for listening in. I'll see you all later.